What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Lakers Outsiders post-game show. I am your host, Gary Kester, here with you as always. And joining me as always is my good pal, Honi Ahmadian. Honi, rough day today. I am giving you permission to go ahead and get a Popeye's chicken sandwich for dinner and, brighten your spirits a little bit, because I think that's what I'm going to do.
That might be a good idea, honestly. I would love just something to fill the hole in my heart, and maybe clog my arteries.
It'll fill your stomach, that's for sure, with some deliciousness. All right, so the Lakers lose Game 4 to the Phoenix Suns, 100-92. Very disappointing game for a number of reasons, and we're going to talk about that today. Before I dive in, though, as always, guys, we do these live over on twitch.tv/Lakers Outsiders. You can follow and subscribe to us there and on YouTube as well, and then facebook.com/Lakers Outsiders. Always live with those three platforms right there, and then after the fact, we'll have the game up on all the podcast platforms that you guys might listen to. So whether you want to watch live, you got options. If you want to listen to it after the fact, you got options there as well. So with those plugs out of the way, Honi, like I said, this was a very disappointing game for a number of reasons, but the number one thing I think on our minds is the health of Anthony Davis moving forward and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Not having him today definitely hurt, I think, in terms of the spacing and just the threat of a three-point shooter and his defense, obviously, and just the energy that he plays with, because the second half today, Lakers were they came out pretty flat to start that second half and got punched right in the mouth because of it. But going forward, I mean, how concerned are we about Anthony Davis and his health? And can the Lakers still win the series if he's not able to go?
I'm very concerned about his health. I think considering that he's already been playing through a lot of things, the fact that he didn't play in the second half means that it's pretty serious. It wasn't something that he could play with. Frank Vogel said that he's still going through some medical evaluation. Didn't really say if it was an MRI or something else, and that they'll have an update tomorrow. So we'll know more then. But I'm kind of operating under the assumption that he wouldn't be ready for Game 5 and maybe not the rest of the series, depending on how many games it goes. As far as how likely it is for the Lakers to still win the series, I don't know. We're gonna get to see LeBron really have to play with his back against the wall for the first time as a Laker in the playoffs, I think, because last year they obviously lost some games, some game ones where things looked a little bit dicey at first, but for the most part they weren't really challenged. Not until the finals, I would say, and even in the finals, they still won fairly comfortably. This is the first time where they come into the series as favorites technically, but they are the lower seed. They have to play on the road first, playing against a very, very good Suns team with really talented players. And obviously with all the Lakers' own injury issues throughout the regular season, the lack of chemistry because guys hadn't played with each other. And now losing AD, I think, just kind of starts you back at square one. AD hasn't always been great in this series. He was phenomenal in both of their wins, even though we kind of talked about them not really even being A+ performances from him. So it looked like he could potentially get up to another gear if he was healthy. But I don't know. It just seems very difficult for me for this Lakers team to operate without AD. Like, defensively is so important to them. And I know they still held the Suns to 100 points or whatever it ended up being. So the defense wasn't really an issue. It hasn't been this entire series. But in terms of just those stretches where the Suns all of a sudden kind of find something that's getting going for them, the very obvious thing to point out is how good Chris Paul was in that mid-range with his jumper today. And some of that, might be him getting healthier after he got injured in the first game. But I think a lot of that has to do with not having Anthony Davis in front of him as well. It just makes him that much more comfortable to rise up and get a shot going. And offensively, the Lakers don't have somebody who can battle down low the way that AD does without giving up something probably on the other end. You know, like Andre Drummond, I think, has been great in this series, but at the end of the day, he's not Anthony Davis. And Marc Gasol came in today and played phenomenally in that second half, especially in the fourth quarter. He was the only reason the Lakers, or at least the main reason the Lakers really got back into the game and had a chance to pull this away. But again, he's not Anthony Davis. So I would give the Lakers a chance because LeBron is that good when he is playing at his best and with his back against the wall. I think and would hope that he comes out really, really strong in Game 5 and tries to go for one of those all-time performances, because that's probably what they need. As good as the rest of this team is, and we give a lot of credit to the depth of the team and the quality of the players, none of them are Anthony Davis. So it's really just going to be solely on LeBron's shoulders to come out and really show that he's the best player in the world. And it's going to be a challenge because the Suns are playing against that. You know, they pack the paint and they're basically daring the Lakers to beat them from range. And for the most part, this series, they haven't been able to. I think today might have been their best shooting night, and they were still like 13 of 40. So it's definitely going to be a challenge. I wouldn't say that it's impossible, but without AD, to me, you know, this is a series that is not basically even. It's a 3-game series. Phoenix has home court. I would say that the Suns are the favorites to win the series if AD is not playing in Game 5 and probably after that as well.
Yeah, to answer, I guess, my own question, I would say the Lakers can still win the series without Anthony Davis. It's going to take LeBron being pretty special, but I'm never going to count out LeBron James in really any kind of situation. I mean, he's been stacked up against worse odds and has come out victorious. So he's going to have to really ramp up, I think, his aggressiveness. Part of my frustration in the third quarter was I just felt like, okay, Anthony Davis is out. LeBron's got to really step up and lead these guys, especially offensively, and just be much more aggressive and try and put his head down, get to the basket, create some shots for other guys. And he just kind of didn't. I don't know if it's still the injury or what, but he the Suns, I'll give them credit. I mean, their defensive scheme was completely geared to stopping LeBron's drives. I still would have liked to see him be a little more aggressive. I thought he had some opportunities where he could have been and just wasn't. But with Anthony Davis out, the Suns' game plan it kind of fell right into their lap with how everything unfolded. Once AD goes out, it's like they knew exactly how to guard just LeBron by himself and just dare the Lakers to have other guys that made shots. You mentioned the Lakers were 13 of 40, which was probably their best three-point shooting game of this series, but it's still only 32%. And there were 19 of 41 from 2 in this game. So, just not enough shot making, but the offense was pretty stagnant most of the way. I would have liked to see LeBron be a little more aggressive, and I anticipate he will be in Game 5, especially if Anthony Davis can't go, which is kind of my gut feeling. If he wasn't able to play today, it's in the second half, it's hard to really imagine he's going to be ready to go in 48 hours, and with travel and all that. But I don't know. It's really rough sledding, and this goes back to my frustration with the Lakers always seemingly having a feel-out Game 1, where it's almost like they just give away Game 1 just to get a feel for their opponent, and then they crank it up and say, okay, now we'll play hard. This is the danger that you run by continuing to do that. And they haven't lost every Game 1. They did beat Denver in Game 1. They beat Miami in Game 1. And, they went up 2-0 in both of those series and had a little leeway to play with. They didn't have that really. I mean, they were up 2-1. And, in the blink of an eye, they went from, okay, they have a chance to go up 3-1 to, oh, shit, now they're tied 2-2 going back to Phoenix. Phoenix has home court, and we're down 2 starters. So This is just part of my frustration of why the Lakers tend to come out flat in Game 1s and essentially just give away a game to their opponent. My worry was that, especially in this series with a team like Phoenix, that you run the risk of Game 2, kind of what we saw with the Clippers and the Mavericks, where the Mavericks came out red hot again in Game 2 and just blitzed the Clippers and went up 2-0. Of course, the Clippers have battled back, and now that's a series. But my worry with that was the Lakers. Eventually, that's going to happen where you tempt fate, and fate allows the team you gave a game to be red hot in game two. All of a sudden, you're down 2-0. Luckily, that didn't happen here, but it's the same kind of premise where you give away game one, all of a sudden, all that team has to do, especially when you don't have home court, all they got to do is win one of the next 3 games, and then the series shifts back into their favor. So that's just, I couldn't help but think about that as the game was kind of unwrapping, or just kind of wrapping up there in the fourth quarter. But just a frustrating game, frustrating how flat they came out in the second half. I don't know if they were just deflated because Anthony Davis was out, and KCP is usually a guy that brings a lot of energy, and he wasn't out there. I did like that we saw some Trez minutes. I didn't think he got much of a shot, but, I mean, he got out there for a few minutes. I would have gone to him a little earlier in the third quarter when the team came out flat and said, all right, we need somebody to give us a spark. And so I thought with Trez it was almost too little too late, but yeah, man, I don't know. Just a frustrating game. Credit to the Suns. They made some big shots. They, didn't shoot the ball overly well from the three-point line, but I thought they made some timely threes. And I thought the Lakers got a little frustrated in the first half with the officiating, which, I mean, I was as well. If Monty Williams bitches about the officiating after this game, I swear to God, I'm going to lose it. Because he's whined after every single game as if, the what did he say? Like, we shouldn't be the only team getting guys thrown out, as if the Lakers were also shoving guys in the mid that were midair. I don't know, man. I'm straying away from the point here, but yeah, just really, really frustrating how flat they came out in the second half, and especially because they went up 11 in the second quarter. They were up 36-25, and one thing I didn't like, and maybe I'm alone with this, maybe this is just me being irrational, I didn't like when they subbed out LeBron in the second quarter. I know it kind of fits along with his normal rotation, but I was really concerned that, okay, Lakers were up 5. LeBron comes out in the second quarter with 7:24 to go. I felt that was a little too soon. And the Suns went on a big run right there and went 8-0 right as LeBron went out in a matter of 2 minutes and retook the lead. And from that point on, I mean, Phoenix just absolutely dominated this game. The game totally flipped from that point on, and the Lakers just weren't able to ever catch up. So I would like to see Vogel maybe be a little less, strict, I guess, with his rotations and staying very strict to what they've been doing, and kind of apply context to the situation, I guess, and say, all right, we're up 5 here. LeBron's only been out there 4.5 minutes since the quarter started. We got a chance to go up 3-1 on these guys and bury them. Like LeBron, maybe AD, at the time, we're going to play you heavy minutes because we got a chance to really put these guys on the ropes here and give us some leeway to play with, or maybe I can rest you guys a little more in the last game or two of the series. Now it's like LeBron's basically going to have to play heavy minutes, especially if Anthony Davis can't go. So maybe I'm alone with that, but I would have liked to see Frank Vogel, understand the situation a little bit better and maybe stray away from his normal rotation.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point you bring up, because I felt the same way watching Game 3 between the Mavs and the Clippers. There was a stretch in that first quarter, the Mavs go up by like 19 or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And then they take out Luka, and I believe Kawhi and Paul George were still on the floor at that time. And that's when the Clippers made the run and got back into the game. And like you said, I get that you want a set rotation, and obviously you are cognizant of the fact that you play these guys too long of a stretch in a row, and they're going to get tired and fatigued. And that is a factor, obviously. But when you have a chance to really step on the gas and basically end the series, like in their case, it would have been a 3-0 series potentially. And in this case, the Lakers could have gone up 3-1. Then just ride your guy. It's a much easier task to go up, in a controlling manner, be up 3-1, at which point, even without AD, I think I would feel pretty comfortable with the Lakers winning at least one of those games and ending the series. And if it ends quickly, then you have rest in between those series to recuperate. It just makes a lot more sense to me to ride those guys. I think part of the reason was that Vogel was expecting LeBron to play heavy minutes in the second half, which ended up happening. I think LeBron ended up playing 22 of the 24 minutes in the second half, which he basically had to. I don't know if that was only because AD was out or not, but Yeah, now you're heading into game five, like you said. LeBron has to play pretty much the entire time. Whatever break that he gets, I think Schroeder has to be on the floor for those. That was another thing I had an issue with Vogel's rotations. There was at least one stretch. I don't exactly remember when it was, when LeBron was sitting and Dennis Schroeder was also sitting, and it just doesn't make sense. They don't have enough perimeter creation without LeBron to not also have Dennis Schroeder out there. I know some people were kind of calling for THC to play. I don't know. He hasn't really been good in the series. I get the idea of it. Maybe he comes in for 5 minutes and has a good stretch. It's possible, but the margin for error is very, very small right now, with AD out and this being as tough of a series as it has been. So I think you just got to ride your guys that have been doing it all series long. And that's another issue was Dennis Schroeder not really having a good game tonight either. It's kind of gone. There's been a lot of ebbs and flows in this series in general, but also in particular with the Lakers' ability to get into the paint. Like, they dominated down low in their 2 wins. They got into the paint at will and scored a whole lot in there. But in the 2 losses, they've had a lot of struggles of just even getting a foot in the paint and forcing the Suns to collapse a little bit more. So, that's something that really only LeBron and Dennis Schroeder can do on this team, especially if AD's not playing. So those guys, I think, just got to play heavy minutes, and at least one of them has to be on the floor the entire time in game 5 for them to have a chance.
Yeah, and to me, going forward, especially if Anthony Davis isn't able to play, I think Dennis Schroeder is going to be the X factor for the rest of the series for the Lakers, because obviously you're going to have to get rotation, or you're going to have to get contributions from your big rotation, and you're going to have to get it by committee. You're going to have to get Gasol providing spacing and passing, 3-point shooting, Drummond on the glass, Trez with his energy, Morris with his toughness and potential offensive, spacing and stuff like that. It's going to have to be by committee if Anthony Davis isn't able to go. But to me, Dennis has to be a little more assertive. He was great in the last 2 games, and was a big reason why the Lakers won and really stopped the bleeding at the end of Game 3 when the Lakers were kind of playing with their food a little bit, and Dennis kind of shut the door on that. But had a really rough go of it today, and he's got to be a little bit better. And like you said, one of LeBron or Dennis has to be on the floor at all times, especially when Anthony Davis is out, because I think the Lakers put Alex Caruso, who has shown improvement as a playmaker in this series, or not in the series, this season, but he was forced to be a playmaker too much today, and I think that he was just a little uncomfortable, and it caused the Lakers' offense to stagnate a little bit, and that's got to be a role that Dennis takes over and creates offense for. And Alex is a guy that does more stuff off the ball, whether if it's spot up shooting, cutting to the basket, whatever it is. He's better in that type of role offensively. So I think Dennis has to be much more aggressive, but he also has to just take on that role of being a playmaker, especially if LeBron's not on the floor, that you got to be the guy that helps create offense for others.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Caruso's an improved passer, I would say, but he's not a guy that you throw the ball to, in a playoff setting and tell him to go create something. Like, especially when he's being guarded by a guy like Chris Paul, who is just a master of taking the ball away from you and knows all the veteran tricks of getting away with whatever contact that he needs to get away with to win those sort of situations. It just doesn't work. And I think Caruso, he had a couple threes, but overall offensively, I thought he was really out of it. He had a couple of just really bad passes and wasn't involved in the same way that you would want him to be. And I think a factor of that is asking him to do too much. That's just not his game. He's not a guy like Dennis Schroeder who you give the ball to and say, go create something. And, Dennis isn't amazing at it, but his speed and sort of quickness and a little bit of creativity, I think, at least gives them a chance. And in games 2 and 3, they really used that to their advantage. This game just didn't come to fruition. And it sucks because he had a chance to really put some pressure on the Suns late with that layup. I think he made the exact right play to push it and push the pace and get to the basket. And it was just a layup that rimmed out. And it sucks because, immediate 5-point swing when the Lakers could have cut it to 5 with a minute and a half left and really put some pressure on the Suns. and that would have been huge, man. Like that they could have stolen this game when they didn't play well, and their second best player got injured at halftime. They genuinely had a real good chance of stealing this game and giving themselves a great chance of winning the series. And everything sort of changes with basically one basket that I don't know 80%, 90% of the time goes in. It's just a really brutal thing to happen.
Yeah, that was just a backbreaking sequence. I mean, the layup gets you to within 5, and you miss, and then of course it's just basketball law. Basically, you miss an opportunity like that, the other team goes down and hits a three, basically slams the door shut. But yeah, it's just. I mean, there were a lot of like little things like that. I mean, there was like a sequence late where LeBron reaches around behind. I think it was Bridges,
Yeah,
knocks the ball out, goes right to Phoenix, who then has a 2-on-1 and gets a dunk. Like, that was just kind of the game it was. They just couldn't really get much going. And when they finally did, it was just too little too late. So, like to see some urgency a little earlier before, because, I mean, we didn't really see like urgency from the team in the second half until it was too late, where they just dug themselves too deep of a hole. And, that's where my frustration lies is I can live with this team losing games. I hate when they lose games because the effort just sucks. So, and that's what I saw in the second half. Obviously, Suns played really well. I thought, certainly not their best, but played well enough. I thought Chris Paul looked like Chris Paul again. So if the Lakers do win the series, I better not hear one Chris Paul excuse, especially given the Lakers are down 2 starters now. Because he said it himself. He's back, right? He said, I'm back. So no Chris Paul excuse if the Suns lose this series. I don't want to hear it. And then
we said that before the series started. We said no AD excuse up until this point because he said he was back. We're like, whatever, he's healthy enough. Obviously, that changes a little bit when you're legitimately out for a half because of a groin injury, but that's the rule.
Yeah, just real convenient. He was back as soon as Anthony Davis goes out and the Suns have a double-digit lead. Weird how that happens, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to be rough sledding, but these are the types of moments that if you got to overcome if you want to become an NBA champion, right? And go all the way. And the Lakers didn't really face, I would say, this level of challenge in last year's playoffs. I mean, really, we were pretty spoiled that their biggest challenge was being down 0-1 in 2 different series. And everything else was pretty smooth sailing after that. And this is definitely a big challenge for this team, and I'm looking forward to see how they deal with it because that Phoenix crowd's going to be rocking for Game 5. That the Suns team has newfound confidence and rhythm and swagger, and the Lakers it's going to be on them to answer and respond because a championship team would respond to this challenge and bounce back and bring it in Game 5 and do what you can to try and go steal another one in Phoenix and get back to LA with a chance to close it out. The good news is the Suns do have to win another one in LA to make it to a Game 7, which I still trust in a Game 7 LeBron is going to be just unreal because LeBron in that type of situation has always brought it. And if you can get to a Game 7, I would trust that LeBron would do what he has to do to get it done. But so that's the positive, I guess, is that the Lakers do get another home game out of this, and it shouldn't be a matinee. I don't know what it is about these afternoon games that the Lakers just suck in. I don't know if they just stay up too late or what, but these matinee games are just not great to them. So you got to find a way to be better on those because I'm sure they'll have more if they advance past this series. So just sucks, man, because everything can switch so quickly, and it goes back to my point of giving basically giving Game 1s away. Is that we were talking, a lot of Laker fans were talking yesterday that hey, that Denver Portland series is 2-2. There's a good shot that could go 7 games, and if the Lakers can win in 5, they'd get a week off, rest, recover, all this stuff. Now it's like the Lakers might be, if they do advance, they might get less rest than the team that they'll be playing in the second round. So it's everything can change so quickly. That's why it's just you got to focus just on the game that's in front of you.
Yeah, I guess the silver lining to all of this is if they do advance out of this series, one, like you said, odds are that that other series also goes at least 6, potentially 7. So it's not like they're going to be playing against a team that is much more rested than them.
Mm-hmm.
If it is the Nuggets, it's a team that is also missing their second best player. If it's against the Blazers, it's a team that's I think they should be able to beat probably even without AD, although it's obviously much easier with him. And if you do win the series, now it's you're going to have to really gut it out to win the series. It's going to be a big test of their mentality, their preparedness. It would be a huge confidence boost, I think, for the rest of the playoffs if they can get past what is a really, really good team. And I guess it's kind of like a weird factor of this weird season where the Lakers, who everybody assumed were the best team in the West, end up being the 7th seed because of injuries and whatever other reason, is that they get maybe their biggest challenge of the playoffs they get in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come out of it with that sort of confidence, then maybe you see another special run like last year. But it all hinges on really, I think, Game 5 and how you come out and really attack the Suns and see what you can do without. I mean, I'm assuming without Anthony Davis there to really give you another extra boost in the sort of margin of error category. It's just you really can't make some of the mistakes that the Lakers have been making this series without him. So it's going to be very stressful, but I think also really fun to see what this team is sort of capable of with only LeBron being their main leader on the court.
I'm still hoping that I've said it a couple of times now, that there's going to be one game in this series where the Lakers actually shoot well from the three-point line, because, I mean, this was another game where they, shot better, but it was kind of a low bar to clear, shooting better. Yeah. But they still miss a lot of wide open, really good looks. And at this point, I think the Suns are just kind of daring the Lakers to shoot threes because they just haven't made them. I still think there's a game in this series where the Lakers, they shoot well from three. So hopefully it's Game 5, and hopefully they can go into Phoenix and get a win because, like you said, Honey, this is the type of series that if the Lakers can get through it, I think it brings them together. They learn a lot, and they just get better from it, going through that type of challenge right off the get-go. And if the Lakers are able to advance to the second round, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that the second round might be easier for them than the first round based on the level of opponent, games under their belt, assuming that guys can be healthy for it. But this Suns team is probably going to be better than either of the two teams that they would play in the second round. So this is just the challenge that's in front of them. It's a 3-game series. You got to win 2 out of 3. They can certainly do it. I think even without Anthony Davis, it's just going to be tough, and guys have got to step up and be ready to make plays because it's got to be everybody. It can't just be LeBron doing it by himself. Although I would like to see LeBron be more aggressive in the next game and see the Lakers find ways to space the Suns out a little bit more and basically make them pay for having 5 guys stand around the paint and give LeBron some more room to operate, which I think getting out in transition a little bit could help. And I think defensively, if AD is back, I think that helps a lot. I forgot to mention this earlier, but one area that I think really hurt the Lakers defensively with no Anthony Davis was there were way too many straight line drives to the rim where nobody rotated over. Cameron Payne got probably a handful of them. Chris Paul, I think, got a couple. It was just, not having Anthony Davis back there, being that guy that can cover so much ground and contest shots at the rim, really hurt the Lakers, and the Suns really exploited that because Gasol just doesn't have the movement capabilities to do that. Drummond, kind of the same thing, and then Trez is, you don't want Trez really being your small ball 5 much with Ayton being the 5 out there. I would like to see Trez get some minutes when Ayton is not in the game. I think Trez can have a lot of success there, especially with LeBron on the floor. And I mean, you could, in theory, you could put Trez out there even with Ayton out there too. Maybe you put Gasol in the game still to have Gasol kind of out by the three-point line, and then you have Trez kind of in that dunker spot, and LeBron and Trez seem to have pretty good chemistry with that kind of combination. So curious to see what adjustments Frank Vogel makes going forward. But Lakers, I think it starts on defense. There was just some stuff was way too easy for the Suns today, and if the Lakers are able to get more stops and get out in transition, force some turnovers, stuff like that, I think that offense will come a little easier and they'll get a little more rhythm, a little more flow to their game, and I think that they'll be okay. But they can't continue to allow straight line drives to the basket and then have to take it out and then walk it up the floor and then go up against a set defense that's just packing the paint. It's just not going to get it done.
Yeah, and it was guys that you wouldn't expect that from. Like LeBron let Cameron Payne, I think, get to the rim like almost 3 straight times in the second half. Alex Caruso got blown by Chris Paul. I think it's just a lack of adjustment. They're so used to, it's like muscle memory, just being used to funneling those guys into Anthony Davis because they know he's going to be behind them. But it's just you got to change how you play defense when it's Gasol or Drummond or Trez or whoever behind you. So hopefully, heading into a game 5, I would imagine that they're more prepared for that sort of situation, pending whatever update we get on AD tomorrow. I'm fairly confident that the defensive issues will be mostly fixed, bar just not having a defensive player of the year sort of caliber player back there, which obviously hurts. Offensively, though, yeah, you're. I want a little bit more pace on this team. I think there's a lot of stretches where it sort of resorts to LeBron with the ball in his hands for 20 seconds or Schroeder or whoever, and they just don't get good looks. I think overall this series they have gotten good looks, and it's just been a factor of not hitting their threes. But even when that's happening, they just got to be doing a much better job of getting into the paint, and I don't think they're doing it with this sort of like slow and anemic offense that really happens in the half court. When they're pushed to pace in transition, everything is great. I think they were phenomenal in that sort of department. But in the half court, even I think you can still play with more speed and play with more pace. And the trust thing that you mentioned, I tweeted out the same thing during the game. I thought him with LeBron, I think is just a little bit of an X factor that the Lakers can throw in there because Trez brings that energy. He brings a little bit more speed and athleticism, and he does have that chemistry with LeBron. He knows exactly where to go to find pockets of space and get shots up. Against Ayton, it might be a little bit of a challenge, but just in general, I think a guy that can set screens for LeBron and get to the basket and roll. You even saw that like Mark had to do it a little bit. You saw a few rolling possessions from Marc Gasol, which you don't really see very often because he likes to just get behind that 3-point line and take jumpers. And it worked. They got I think they just got free throws out of it, but almost a name one during that run in the fourth quarter or third quarter, whenever it was. But Trez kind of gives you that on a little bit more consistent level. And I think that just kind of clears a little bit of space for LeBron to attack the basket when Trez is the one putting pressure on the rim because they have to defend that a lot more than they do with a guy like, say, Andre Drummond, who doesn't really have that same level of threat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So, like I said, it'll be really interesting to see how Vogel and his staff adjust because I didn't think this was a great game from them. And hopefully they are able to adjust and be a little more prepared for Game 5 because it's going to be tough, man. That Suns team is going to be amped up. That crowd's going to be electric. And the Lakers got a hell of a challenge on their hands now. Like I said, it's crazy how fast the series can change. We were feeling good coming into today. Had a shot to go up 3-1. Now the Lakers are down 2-2 or tied 2-2, down a couple starters. We don't know if they're going to be healthy. So hopefully KCP and AD are able to give it a go in 48 hours or so. But it's not looking great right now. But still can't count out LeBron James. Just can't do it until it's official, and we'll see. So I don't have anything else to add. Honi, do you have anything before we sign off?
No, not really. I can't wait to hear the next Monty Williams comments.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pull a Monty Williams here and say, NBA officials, if the Lakers fall down on a 3, you're allowed to call a foul on that as well, because Lord knows it works for Jay Crowder.
Honestly, I'm less annoyed about the Monty Williams comments. I'm more impressed. One, like he's known to be one of the best dudes around the NBA, so I'm not gonna like get super angry about this. But it is like incredibly impressive that he has now done this on multiple occasions of talking about like unfair officiating when the foul totals are basically even the entire time, and uh, not to mention that the Lakers attack the rim a lot more than the Suns usually do, and are better at drawing fouls usually than the Suns are. It's genuinely impressive. The saying that the Lakers should have also had players thrown out of the game is incredible.
I believe I saw somebody on Twitter said during the regular season the Suns were like bottom 5 in free throw attempts and the Lakers were
Yeah,
top 5. Weird. I wonder why the Lakers might shoot a few more free throws. It's kind of like
yeah.
that's who you are.
The Suns go to that mid range game all the time, which is good for them. Like it works for them, but that's not generally a way you draw free throws.
Unless you're Devin Booker.
Unless you're Devin Booker, man. Again, like annoyed, but also impressed at how he's able to finagle those free throws just by like running. It's very impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And Jay Crowder, kudos to him for continuing to be able to kick out his legs on threes and get the calls and never have those challenges overturned. Again, very impressive.
Yeah, and then, just as LeBron's about to leave his feet, grab him around the shoulders and neck area, making no play on the ball whatsoever, and not even get a review for a flagrant. So that's pretty good, pretty great too. So, and whoever the ref crew is for Game 5, I hope you watch this. And I hope we get some Monty Williams effect of effectively whining about officiating after every game, even though the officiating has not been overly one-sided in the box score. So, all right. Well, that was our attempt, at least, to get the Lakers a few more calls. So, fingers crossed that it actually works. But
little known fact: Scott Foster watches our show. That's why Chris Paul hasn't won 11 straight games with him officiating.
The league should just troll him and make Scott Foster do Game 5.
Oh man, if this goes 7 and Scott Foster is calling Game 7, NBA Twitter would melt down. That would be incredible.
I need it. Actually, no, I need the Lakers to win at 6. Let's just do it. But yeah, no, I mean the Lakers just have to be better. You can't play with such low energy the whole second half. Because really, I didn't have much of a problem with the officiating in the second half. It was more the first half than anything.
Yeah.
Because I got sick and tired of the foul baiting constantly being rewarded, and then Kuzma, on Jay Crowder, let alone in the second half, that corner 3, referee just sat there and stared at Kuzma and shook his head at him when he tried to fall down on a 3 and it wasn't called. But I mean. Officials aren't why the Lakers lost this game. They can be frustrating as they were in the first half today, but Lakers just have to be better in the second half. They have to execute better. They got to play better defense, not give up so many straight line drives. Offensively, got to hit shots. Got to hit shots, and you got to play with more pace, more tempo, and attack. Just be more aggressive. I'm looking for LeBron to be really aggressive in Game 5 and hopefully lead this team because I just don't know if Anthony Davis is going to be able to give it a go. So, fingers crossed on that, but still got to keep the faith. Game 5 is going to be Tuesday. I haven't really checked to see what time it is. I'm assuming it's probably 7 o'clock Pacific time or so. Pull it up here. Yeah, 7 o'clock Pacific time. Tuesday night on TNT. So fingers crossed the Lakers can bounce back and retake control of the series. Tough one today, but it's a 3-game series. It's a 3-game series, and Still got faith. So we're gonna get out of here. The chat. Those of you that jumped in the chat and you guys weren't overly negative, I get it. It's frustrating. I can't repeat most of what was in the chat due to language purposes, but it's frustrating. I get it, but we'll see. Playoffs can, as we learned today, a series can drastically change from game to game. So we'll have to just wait and see. We'll see what this team is made of, and as we go into Game 5, and hopefully the Lakers can bounce back and, like I said, regain control of this series. So frustrating, but you got more games to play. Series isn't over. It's even at the end of the day. So we'll see what the Lakers got left in the tank. But we're gonna sign off. Thank you for those of you that have watched during this and commented in the chat. I see you guys, but like I said, I get it. It's frustrating, but hopefully better days are ahead here in the next few days or in the coming week. So As always, guys, we do these live on twitch.tv/Lakers Outsiders. You can follow and subscribe to us on there. You can subscribe to us on YouTube as well. And you can like and follow along with us on facebook.com/Lakers Outsiders. These podcasts, or these post-game shows will always be up on any of the podcast platforms after the fact. So Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, will be up there after the fact. So you can follow Honi on Twitter, as you see on the screen here if you're watching live, at HONIAHM. You can follow me, just at Gary Kester. You can follow my personal Twitch account, just twitch.tv/SwishGK. I can have some more colorful language on that one, so if you want to hop in there next time I'm on, maybe here in a little bit. But yeah, Honi, it's always good to vent, kind of get some stuff off our chest, and now I think I'm going to go order a Popeye's chicken sandwich and try and enjoy the sunshine and enjoy the rest of my day.
Sounds like a wonderful idea to me, except for the fact that Popeye still hasn't sponsored us.
That too. I think the Lakers would win the championship if Popeyes would just pony up some dough and sponsor us already.
Maybe I'll just go get an unnamed branded chicken sandwich.
I did
see about that, Popeyes.
I did see a commercial for the Carl's Jr. chicken sandwich. I might have to just give it a try.
Everybody's got one now. Everybody's got one. I saw. I've been seeing like a million promoted tweets by Burger King about theirs on my Twitter. One of them was from a protected account. I don't understand how that's possible.
Protected except for when I get paid to tweet.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, yeah. So that's it. Like I said, Lakers are back Tuesday night. So everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you're watching this live, enjoy your Memorial Day Monday. Hopefully everybody has this, the long weekend and all that stuff. So have fun. Be safe out there. We'll see you guys Tuesday night. And hopefully we're in much better moods and not due to the Popeye's chicken sandwiches. So with Honi Ahmadian, I am Gary Kester and the Lakers Outsiders signing off.
Shout out to Trevor Ariza.